Alright, defensive positions. I've talked about starting positions, and in that video I did briefly mention defensive positions, but what are they, why do they matter, and what makes them different from starting positions? Starting positions are just where you want to be round 1, so you don't, die frame 1. Defensive positions are places you're going to be holding for the majority of the round. While you don't have enough movement speed, while you're just trying to get damage, looking for opportunities to grab crates, etc., etc. Traits of a good starting position, or defensive position, there are a couple of them. Number 1 is limited routes of entry. A good defensive position generally means you're only going to be approached at from like 1 or 2 angles, and you're able to just deal with that angle. You might want to check your surroundings every so often, just to make sure you're not getting jumped by a player especially. But so long as you pick a good one, you generally can just stay there for most of the round. Well, with a few exceptions. Another thing about starting positions, or defensive positions, you want to make sure that you have a way of getting out of the position if you don't have Dimensional Magazine. Because if you don't have Dimensional Magazine, you can get overrun, and if you have nowhere to go, you are just going to die. While I'm at it, another key trait of a defensive position is that you actually have to have crystalline that you can shoot at. If you're just standing somewhere and you can't get any crystalline, then, you're kind of just wasting the round time that you've got, since that's a main way that you get experience, so you can get levels, so you can get card draws. Another good trait of a lot of starting positions is that you can get back to them relatively easy enough from a supply run. If I'm here, I can just go grab some crates, and if I see there's no crystal nearby, and I can just get back up here, and I am back to safety again. Alright, we are now on Port Euler Night, since it illustrates the next thing that I really want to talk about in regard to defense positions for Outbreak. There's one position that I'm going to talk about first on this map, because it illustrates something that I think is a bad trait of a defensive position. So one spot you can technically play on Port Euler is right here. I call it the Cheese Box. And there's a reason I call it the Cheese Box. It's because if you're right here, then all the crystalline only have one way that they can come into the room. And they kind of can only go in single file, and as long as you're shooting at them, they can't push into the room, really. The problem with the Cheese Box comes when you run out of ammo. So, when you run out of ammo in Outbreak, do you know what you need? You need to get loot crates. And the issue is, where are you going to get loot crates? They don't spawn in here. So you either have the option of pushing out here, and this here is kind of a dead zone, because every time a crystalline dies, they're going to be spawning in this area. So you're going to be waltzing out here, maybe with not enough HP, armor, and you certainly don't have any ammo in your gun, and you're going to get jumped by the crystalline as they respawn. What's your other option? Well, you go over to here, and you move out of here. And let me tell you, unless you've spec'd into some movement speed, it's going to take you 5 to 7 business days to get to anywhere reasonable that's safe from right here. You respawn here, and again, the crystalline are out here. If you try to run over here, the crystalline are all up this ramp, and falling down as people shoot them. And also falling over in this area. There's this route you could technically do, but it is very, very clunky. And still kind of forces you to go under the ramp. And again, this area is going to have crystalline all over it. You could also try to make a bolt through here. And again, crystalline are going to be falling down from here. So, good luck with that. And also just look at how far this is from that position. You're not reaching this place in that time. The other option that you realistically have is you go, like, from here. Somehow survive running past the crystalline spawn. You go up here. You climb over this wall. And you try to make it over to here. And then you go this way to get over to here. Point is, I hate the cheese box. It's like, I feel like that whole side of the map is just kind of like a no man's land, a dead zone outright. Because once you're over there, it's kind of a commitment that you're making to just stay on this side of the map till final round. Because there's realistically no way you're getting out of here safely. Wasn't expecting to go on a whole rant about Pure Euler Knight's map design, but I will just leave that in there. Anyway, as for starting positions, there aren't really a lot here.
10, 9,
Wait, starting positions?
8,
I already talked about starting positions.
7,
Defensive
6,
positions.
5, 4,
Well, I've already
3,
talked about how, like,
2, 1.
this whole general area is decent as a starting position. It's also a good defensive position. I guess Konami's not really a good agent for me to show this on, but what you do is you just play here. You shoot crystalline as they come up, and if you need to reload, you just pull back. You reload your gun. You hang here, and you just shoot them as they come up. Knock them back, and you just kind of do that until you start getting overwhelmed. And, like, if you're desperate, you can go over to the cheese box. For the whole rant that I mentioned, only do that as, like, a last resort, and, if you have no other option. Ideally, you get dimensional mag, so you're not forced into that situation. The other thing you can do is play over here. This does have some advantages over you're not getting blocked as much by this thing here, so you can shoot the crystal in this area, but you're also not able to, like, keep them back from attacking you as much. You can technically play here. I never do, but it is an option. I don't know if that spot's real, but it exists. If you're playing up here, by the way, you never, ever stand over here. Crystalline will not come this way unless they're players, as long as there's, like, no one standing here. The moment someone stands here, the crystalline bots will start going this way. This spot exists as well, technically, but it's not a very safe spot to hold up to, and it tends to get flooded pretty easily.
Supplies have been dropped.
I think that might be it. While I'm at it, I'm going to go over and talk about Ghannak. The one I'm holding right here is a pretty good example for Ghannak. There's just this one position that most crystal will be pushing you from, and as long as you're shooting at them, they won't get you. What you do have to worry about is if there's players in the game. Because a lot of times they might be right here, or they might be down here. And if they've been stacking enough jump, they can just jump from down here, go all the way up to there, and just give you back shots. As for some other positions you can use on Ghannak, generally this whole area here is pretty good. And you can make a starting position out of, or defensive position out of most of these. Right here, as long as you're watching this angle, and some people are watching this angle, you're generally pretty safe. And if you get pushed, you can either jump over to this vent to glide. You can go back to here, and go through the vent here. I recommend this, though, because it's a shortcut. You can also pull over to here, and go over to that one. Again, here works.
Keep gliding.
Here's pretty good, because it's very hard for Crystal to get you here. They either have to come from here, or here. Or they have to push through here, which is also hard. This one's also good, because they mostly can only come at you from here. But you do have to make sure to be careful of watching this angle. Especially if there's a player-controlled crystalline. They might just go up this ramp, go here,
10,
go here,
9, 8,
and then they'll
7,
jump over to here. And I have gotten a lot of super strings
4,
doing that as a
3,
crystal.
2.
Anyway, the other position that you can be on for Ghannak is you climb up here. You can stand here. Or over here. I never use these positions, personally, and it's because it's kind of decently easy to get overwhelmed, especially if you don't have Dimension Mag. Like Crystalline just trying to jump up here, or up here. You've got a lot of easy escape options, obviously. Like if you're over there, you can just glide over to that one.
Supplies have been
Or here you can make your way over there. I've also seen players standing here, but like, I am never going to be trying this position because of how close it is to everything down here. Alright, Loch. This was interesting because most of the map really is just defensive positions. Some are just better than others. This one I only really recommend if you have another, like, maybe like a couple other players with you. Otherwise, this one tends to get overwhelmed pretty easily by too many crystalline coming up here than you're able to shoot at. Like, unless maybe you're a Yagiri or something and you've gotten enough damage scaling, holding this position is just not an option. Another you can do is playing over here. Crystalline can only come at you from one direction, really. And if you're feeling a little bold and not a lot of the crystalline have jump height, you can even stand on this fence so that you're not getting blocked at it and can also, like, shoot anything in your line of sight that's out here. Another one you can do is that one starting position that I mentioned before. It'll last you for, like, a good amount of the early game, but you will eventually need to move off of it. Because crystalline, there will just be too many crystalline that are trying to jump at you from here, and down here, and getting on top of the fence. Especially if they have a lot of jump height, like this crystalline right here. You can also try playing here. But again, this position tends to get flooded after like enough time. Crystalline will be coming from this direction. But you also have to be having someone watch over this direction. The only thing is you're not incentivized to really watch this direction so much, so just imagine that's not going to happen. Because you're not going to have a lot you're going to have to shoot at from there either. You can try playing over here, but it's not really that good. Because it's decently close to the ground, and you've got all this space you can get attack from. I guess this one might be possible, but I wouldn't try it. Finally, there's this room.
Supplies have been dropped.
Which, I guess it's a position you can play in. And, like, if you're, like, out there, and you're the, like, last super string that's... Or, like, if you're getting chased by the majority of the crystalline, you should just check if there's people in here, because that's probably where the rest of the survivors are. The thing I hate about this spot is kind of twofold. You've got all this in your way of shooting any crystalline, and if you want any crates, you gotta leave this room. Apart from that, oh, there's also this one.
9, 8,
You can try holding it on your own, but you would need Dimension Mag, unless you're or maybe a Yagiri, or like a couple of players. It's also got a really good rotation where you can like go from here to here, or from here to here pretty easily. Like, you can just glide through the air to get from here to here if it gets overwhelmed. You kind of just have to hope that both places aren't being flooded at the same time, because you're just kind of out of luck if that happens. Anyway, I'll go ahead and just show that.
10, 9, 8,
and
7,
sometimes it's
6,
movement speed or ping dependent.
5, 4, 3.
Another thing you can do is like stand on that lamp over there, but like I wouldn't, because it kind of runs into the same issue as the box area over there of like, if you're up there, you're not going to have a whole lot to shoot at. This whole space is also just kind of a dead zone, really. You could do like a temporary position as well of being like on this ledge, but it's not going to hold very long. Because technically the crystalline can only come at you from this direction. And I guess technically another thing to mention about this area is crystallines with jumps can get up here. And they can also just flank you from behind in this area if you're not paying attention. It's also an issue with this spot too, is that a crystalline with enough jump could reasonably get up there from down here. And I have killed super strings doing that. And I think that's really it for Loch District. So, alright, on to Polar. Polar's kind of interesting because a lot of the map, it really is a defensive position if the time allows for it. It kind of depends on when in the round that you are.
10,
How many
9,
super strings are alive and how many
8,
crystals
7,
are.
6, 5, 4,
The most basic one that you can do that's
2,
also the safest is just play on this pillar. Most of the crystalline will be coming at you straight from this angle. When they aren't, you can just shoot at, like, the majority of the map and just shoot at things. Always be checking behind you, though, because the moment everyone has their backs turned, this part will get flooded. And you also gotta, like, know when to leave the position. Because if you don't have Dimension Mag, you can't really hold it on your own. And, of course, you've got everywhere that you can go to from here. If it does get flooded, you could go all the way back to here, which is kind of nice as a temporary defensive position. I don't recommend staying here. It can also get pretty overwhelmed, but it gives you a way to get back over to that area. Or potentially anywhere else that's, like, safe. If there aren't a lot of crystalline and it's pretty early game, you can be a bit bolder and play a bit more forward like this, especially if you have Dimension Mag. But you are going to have to push back if you start getting overwhelmed. Apart from these, you can also just play on, like, literally any ramp. You just gotta be careful that when you're doing this, you're also just checking occasionally, make sure there aren't any crystalline coming from, like, that area. Because otherwise you'll get killed from behind. And again, literally any ramp works for this. This one's kind of not as good, because, like, mid-game, because again, this right here is the crystalline respawn point. You could technically also play here. Or here. I don't often. And you can also play on this ramp, especially if you have Dimension Mag and you have people keeping crystalline off from over there. You could try playing in this room, but it's not a permanent spot. You see how wide this door is? You're not able to shoot in this entire line if there's, like, multiple crystalline coming in at you. But if they do push in, you can just go down to here. And you can go over to here, stick to this wall, and you're back to relative safety. Of course, you also have the option of going from here and gliding all the way over to here. I've seen bots play over here. I wouldn't. Crystalline that time their jump really well can just drop down the portal and get up to here. There is one other thing I kind of want to talk about with this position, which I guess I'll talk about during the next round that you have to be aware of. So this position isn't, like, safe entirely from crystalline. Once they start getting enough jump height, they can, like, jump up to here and then, like, jump up to here and just poke at you. Sometimes they can get up fully, but usually it's just poking. Apart from that, if they get enough movement speed, they could jump at you from an angle by, like, going from here. If they have enough jump height and speed, they can just get up there without going directly at you. Sometimes they can just go from one of the ramps to, like, jump here and then get to you. Sometimes you have time to react to that, but a lot of times you don't. You could also do it from this ramp as well, potentially.
Energy is about to condense.
Can't really show it since I don't have enough jump, but yeah. I think that's probably it for Polar, so... Crimson Waste is going to be pretty quick. Because it's not really a map that you just stay in one position most of the time, I feel. The maps that tend to perform best on it, I think, are like Sunburst decks and decks that just are able to move around a lot more, but... Assuming that you're playing like something that's more slow or just can't move as much, there are a few good defense positions. But as for Crimson, there's not a lot, really. Assuming this area has already been cleared at round start of like all the initial crystalline, it's a pretty good starting point. You just have to watch this angle and this angle, and as long as you got eyes in both directions, you're pretty safe. You could also play here, which is fine. You just have to make sure that no crystalline are trying to jump you from down here, which, as long as there's people alive up there, you should be safe. Or crystalline down here that have, like, jump. Apart from that, you can just go over to this side, and this whole area is generally safe. I know there's this current right here, but any crystalline that go from this current are never going to land in this area. They're usually going to drop off somewhere down there. The only place you have to worry about getting attacked from, realistically, are the crystalline that come in this way. And so long as you keep from getting overwhelmed, you can just shoot them down. And if you do start to get overwhelmed, you can just slide through here for relative safety. Apart from that, I guess you've got like a few variations that you can do of standing in this area, like standing on this, or like
10, 9,
here.
8, 7,
And I did see Dusty standing up here, I think. Let me see. Here? Yeah. That's an option. There is one other position I can think of. But it's less of a defensive position and honestly more of a hiding spot. Like, it runs in the same issue of you are almost never going to have crystalline to shoot at if you are using this place as a defense spot. And it's this area. I guess, like, as a rule, small enclosed spaces that are isolated from the rest of the map are bad defense positions. Since you don't have sight of, like, most of the rest of the map to shoot at. Anyway. I think that's it for Crimson Wastes, so... This one will also be decently short. Similar to Crimson Wastes, I feel like it's a map that mid-round, you're spending a lot of time going around the map, generally. I feel like this is one of the most, the maps that most supports a playstyle of just constantly moving around due to all the paths and routes you can take. Paths and routing is also going to be a future thing I'll talk about eventually. But probably not right now, since it's going to be a whole discussion. As for defensive points, again, there really aren't that many for this map. You can go over here and stand up here. And literally the only place that crystalline can get you from is by jumping off of here, or if they get through here and get up here. As for the other positions, you can play in this box, and generally, as long as you have enough people that are just shooting at the crystalline coming up here, you're good. And if you get pushed back, you can just go through these, you can go through these gaps and get to that room. And that room is also a decent defense position. You just kind of poke your head out and shoot over there, and make sure you're not getting flanked over here, and you shoot over there. And if you get into trouble, you just go through the bars again and go to that room. And you just kind of go back and forth. And if they both get flooded, well, I don't have anything that can help you there. Hope you enjoy playing as crystalline. I've seen people play here, but I've never tried it. It kind of looks sketchy. I guess it looks workable, but yeah, I wouldn't. The other I can think of
Energy is about to condense.
is playing over here. I feel like this is a spot that's prone to get flooded pretty easily, so I would never personally try it, but, like, I guess it's an option that technically exists. The last place I can think of that you could possibly play on this map as a defense position, and it's really, really kind of time-specific, is that you could go over to here, and you just stand on top of this. It's not going to last you for very long, since eventually you are going to get pushed off of this position. There's just too many angles you can get attacked from, but, like, while there's, like, relatively few crystalline, and they don't have a lot of jump height, you can kind of just stay here for a bit, and then you just kind of go over to one of the better ones.